Okay, hello! Welcome to our silly little video where I'm going to talk about whistleblower. So, do any one of you guys know what whistleblower is? So, whistleblower is a person who informs a person or organization regarded as engaging in an unlawful or immoral activity, usually exposing corruption that involves embezzlement. So, whistleblowing is an act where an individual reports the wrongdoings of others' corruption to the authorities. Usually, this action is being carried out by employees exposing their employers, which puts them at risk of being harmed once they got caught by the wrongdoers. Hence, why the Whistleblower Protection Act 2010 Act 711 existed. However, sometimes the act itself is not confirming the safety of the person who files the report, which is why these people usually confide it to the media, as media is usually used as a tool to expose the unlawful act that have been done by their superior. So how does this actually work? So imagine person A is telling the story. Their boss embezzled some money and they told the story to person B. So person A asked person B to be the one who leaked this story to the media without exposing the person A's information. So person A felt safer knowing that their identity is remain anonymous, as the media usually won't ask like, oh, who's the name of this person who witnessed this thing. Usually they will just tell the story, they leak this information. Meanwhile, if person A decided to report this to the authorities, especially the police, person A has to write down the information, so their IC, their address, the whatever information that tells about themselves, which again they felt like they are exposed, which is why they decided not to tell anything towards the authorities. However, in the case of they wanted to settle these things internally, they could potentially be subjected to harassment and risk of losing their job, which is why the media has always have been an effective tool for them to spread awareness regarding this issue. With this awareness, the public could come together and protect the victim from getting any harm that will be imposed by the perpetrator themselves. So why is it encouraged for us to stand up against unlawful acts, basically? And why is it encouraged for witness to whistleblow? After this, I will be showing you a video, a scenario where it shows the act of bribery happening right in front of a witness's eyes. So with that, the video will start in 3, 2, 1. So from watching the video itself, you now understand why whistleblowing is something that you need to do. Because sometimes if you remain quiet, if you remain silent about, especially after witnessing something that is unlawful, that thing could actually backfire you, and that thing can also be pressed against you, that you can actually be framed for something that you didn't do. So you might be wondering whether there actually is cases where the Whistleblower Protection Act has been enforced. And in fact, there actually is. One of the cases actually happened in Malaysia, and it happened in 2020, whereby the first person that was charged under the Whistleblower Protection Act 2010 was Wafi Abdul Aziz, aged 37, a former Deputy CEO of Education Malaysia Global Services, known as EMGS. He was accused of harassing the whistleblower at the Office of Education Global Services and allegedly influenced the EMGS chairman, Datuk Abdul Rahman Muhammad Sharif, to terminate the whistleblower's terms of employment after exposing his actions to the MACC. However, he was freed after the judge Susanna noticed that the prosecutor did not manage to establish a prima facie case against him. So what is prima facie? Prima means first and facie means face. So to combine it together, it means at first sight or on the face of it. Prima facie is usually used in court to indicate that there is sufficient or adequate evidence to support a claim. However, in this case, the prosecutor did not manage to gather sufficient or adequate evidence to support this claim, which is why he is being freed from this charge. Although this Whistleblower Act has its pros, being a whistleblower itself is not always easy, and sometimes it can also cause someone to be in a spot where they are in danger. One of the real-life cases that happened in Kota Belud, Sabah, a Malaysian female teacher of SMK Taun Gusi, Nurhaiza Ijab, filed a complaint of unethical conduct of another teacher, Muhammad Jainal Jamran, who was often found missing in action from his classes for several months. However, her primary complaint was ignored and not entertained, even though there's evidence being attached alongside with the complaint itself. It was stated in an article published by Malay Mail that the initial reason for the report was due to Ms. Nurhaiza's concerns on how the absence of Muhammad Jainal may impact the student's education, because obviously if the teacher is not teaching, then the students won't learn anything, especially the fact that the teacher itself is absent frequently. So, which is why she filed the report in the first place. And the impact of corruption can gradually spread into a more serious problem. As mentioned in the article above, the corruption of an individual alone can affect the performance of others around them. So in this case, the teacher is not doing his job. The teacher is absent for so many months, and it's affecting the students' performance as well, because as you can see, students learn from the lecture itself, students learn from the teacher itself. So when the teacher is not teaching, so what can the students learn? So that's when their performance drop. In an article published by Daily Express Malaysia, it was stated that Ms. Nurhaiza had received death threats, especially from Muhammad Jainal, the teacher that was complained on his frequent absentees in his classes, which is why being a whistleblower is not an easy thing to be, because one, you are exposing yourself at one point, especially if your complaints were not taken seriously and the perpetrator found out about it, they can do all sorts of bad things towards you. Which is why we should actually appreciate whistleblowers, as actually whistleblowers tend to be underappreciated. And sometimes, despite their efforts trying to expose wrongdoers, unethical practices remained unpunished, and some lead to the whistleblowers living in fear that harm may be done to them by the perpetrators themselves. Hence why DataGuard Insight states that each organization should implement a whistleblower system to protect employees from reputational damage by allowing them to remain anonymous. By utilizing this system, organizations can increase employee trust and encourage people to report misconduct without fear, resulting in a healthier workplace environment. So, in conclusion, what can we see from all of these cases that has ever happened? People actually refuse to report to authorities is due to the fact that they have fear that their information might be leaked, which could potentially endanger them, and not only them but also the people around them, their family, their children, their spouses, their parents maybe. And media has been the number one outlet for whistleblowers to actually confide it to, because by getting this story out through the media itself, it confirms their anonymity, especially if they actually leak this information anonymously. So this actually exposes the case without giving the chance for internal work to hide the truth, and without the witness having to expose their identity. Although the whistleblower might lose their rights to be under the Whistleblower Protection Act, because one of the conditions for the Whistleblower Protection Act is that you shouldn't expose yourself to the media, or you shouldn't leak any information to the media. But some people actually take the risk and actually tell the media about this, because again, they don't trust the authorities. So yeah, it was concluded that although the whistleblowers might lose their rights to be under the Whistleblower Protection Act by doing this, by getting the attention of the public, it could be a driving force for the case to be made under progress of investigation. However, certain cases have proven that the Whistleblower Protection Act is needed for the purpose to protect the integrity and privacy of the witnesses. The probability for this system to be improved in the future is highly likely, and there is still hope for a better chance for witnesses to file a report of misconduct without fearing of endangerment on themselves and the people around them. So with that is all from me, and thank you for watching this video.